Hello and welcome to this history podcast. Today we have an interesting guest, Nate Yingling. Nate was a mountaineer and graduated with a history education degree last year, and I talked to him about a couple of aspects of his senior year, how his major went, what his experience was like in history education, especially at this school, and the experience he's had since he's been out of college taking on life in the real world. I hope you all enjoy.
All right.
Okay. Cool. All right. So my first question for you. So I know you were a history education major here at App, and you graduated last year.
I graduated in the spring, actually, spring 2021.
Oh, awesome. So my first question for you is, were you able to get a job right away after college, or did it take you a bit of time?
Well, technically, I still don't have a full-time teaching position yet. I've bounced around a couple different positions. In the middle of graduating, actually, I substitute taught biology at my alma mater, my high school, and I worked in a warehouse for a bit. And now I'm currently substitute teaching marketing at Western Guilford High School. So I'm still looking for that full-time history position, but I am still involved in education.
Okay. So following up with that, what would you say the market is like for history teachers right now?
It really depends on the area. Being from Guilford County, you've got High Point and Greensboro, as well as Winston, right in your backyard, and those are all really big cities. So each position, there's going to be multiple people applying. I can't say anything with regards to some of the more rural areas of the state, but in Guilford County and a lot of the more urbanized counties, it's going to be very rough.
Mm-hmm. What would you say, or what do you think that would be like? Maybe somewhere closer to Charlotte, would there be more, or with the population increase, would you also say that, there'd be a proportionate amount of people applying to jobs in that area?
I'd say it would be relatively the same. With regarding Charlotte, that area is seeing a massive amount of growth. A lot of new schools are being built, and that's going to lead to a lot of new jobs going out there.
All right. So what has been one of the biggest challenges to you after graduating college?
Well, I kind of already elaborated on it, but just trying to keep on top of everything and trying to find the full-time job of my dreams.
Yeah.
Let me expand on that a bit. Basically, after I graduated, I had to apply for my licensure. I did that. I am still waiting for that, and that's been really big. But one of the biggest things is to make sure that you're staying on top of everything, as well as making sure you're getting yourself out there. Substitute teaching is a great way to do that. Applying to all these different places is a great way to do that as well.
All right. What is getting your licensure like? What can you walk me through that process a little bit?
Let's see. Basically, after you're gonna take your senior year, you're gonna take Ed TPA. You need to get a 38 or higher on that, and you're gonna be doing this throughout your student teaching period. And the phone is ringing. You're gonna be doing that throughout your student teaching semester. You need to get a 38 or higher to pass that and move on towards your license. You're also going to need to take another praxis. You're going to need to take one that is in your field, and of course, in my case, it was history. I passed that, and after that happened, I went ahead and applied for my licensure.
Awesome. So you've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but do you have any advice for prospective history teachers or just educators in general about anything they should know before they graduate, or maybe what they should do right after they graduate?
Make sure you're staying on top of everything. That is both during and after your student teaching. You are going to need to catalog everything. Ed TPA, during that student teaching period, you're going to have to keep track of all your students' assignments. You're going to have to make sure you have all the recordings. And then once you're out and you're trying to get your licensure, you're going to need to make sure that you apply on time, because that could be the difference between getting a job or not. But just staying on top of things, getting yourself out there, that is those are the two most important things that I have.
Okay, awesome. So I want to ask you, are you allowed to talk about, what you've talked about in any interviews you've had for the history teacher position?
I don't see why I wouldn't be able to. Yeah.
Okay. So following up with that, in this class, RC 2001, I've done a little bit of research one week about how, the stereotype is, oh, the history teacher is always, the football coach or some kind of coach. And that some schools actually have like limited uh, their search for teachers to actually like to be the football coach or a coach of some kind. So have you found that in any of your interviews, the schools you're interviewing with asked you to be a coach or something along those lines?
Uh, Actually, I have not. I have put on my resume that, well, for Western High, I have been working the chain crew. So I've been helping out with the football games in that regard with the head lacrosse coach. And I'm going to be doing that again this Friday as well. And I put that on there. The only time I've had somebody really mention coaching, I applied to Southeast as a chemistry teacher, actually. And I think you're going to be talking about that a bit later about emergency licensure.
Yeah.
But the only time I've ever had that mentioned was when I applied to Southeast.
Before we get into that emergency certification topic, I want to touch a little bit more on this coaching question. This actually came from when we were talking about it in class. It was brought up how history teachers are stereotypically football coaches or soccer coaches or some kind of coach, as I said to Nate. I found it so interesting after that class period that I did one of my research deposits on it for any of you who may have stumbled upon it. In that research deposit, I found a lot of really interesting information and a lot that I actually agree with. Schools shouldn't hire coaches to be teachers, but it's perfectly fine for teachers who are hired to be teachers to also decide to coach. It may be more work for the teacher, but number one, that's a decision that they made to help out with whatever sport program. And number two, it's just better for the school to have someone who's qualified for the teaching position that also happens to be interested in coaching. Prospective teachers apply to schools to be hired as teachers and not coaches. If they wanted to be a coach, I would just assume they would look for a coaching application. Being hired as a teacher just to coach a team for the school is extremely counterintuitive for the school, since that quote unquote teacher schools hire will most likely not be the most well versed in whatever subject matter they are required to teach as their day job. They wouldn't be able to offer all the teacher specific little nuances for their students, whether that's because they're just trying to stay a couple of pages ahead in the textbook, or they got an emergency certification, which Nate and I will go into now.
Oh, all right. Interesting. Um, so yeah, actually that's my next question. Emergency certification. Did you have to get an emergency certification for marketing for what you're teaching right now?
Right now, I'm going to be at this job until the end of October, but as of right now, no. They just hired the dude. I don't know how much I can really say about it, but they did hire the guy who's going to replace me.
Oh, okay. But you didn't have to get an emergency certification to teach
No.
marketing.
When I was interviewing at Southeast for that chemistry position, they were talking about, since my license area is going to be history, they were talking about getting me completely recertified. And apparently, all I would need to do is just pass the praxis in chemistry, because that's what I was interviewing for. But apparently, it's pretty easy to do. All I need to do is just pass the praxis in chemistry. They get me caught up. It's added onto my license, and you're qualified in the state of North Carolina to teach it.
Cool. So is that all you have to do for, getting an emergency certification? You have to take praxis or some kind of tests? Is that just for chemistry? Like if you wanted to, or if you had to get emergency certified for like biology or math or something like that, would you have to take a different test or a course, or do you know anything about that?
I'm not sure, but I would assume that it would be the same process, at least for most of the subjects. I think the one woman at Western who's been supervising me through marketing, she was originally a Spanish teacher, and then she was asked, because she had started a business with her husband. She had started she was asked by her school to teach marketing, and she did that. And apparently, all she had to do was take the praxis, or I think there was some sort of test in marketing, and as soon as she passed that, she was qualified to teach that.
Awesome. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you. Thank you for doing this. I really
Yeah, no problem, man.
yeah. I don't know if you...
Anything to help.
All right, well, there you have it, everybody. That was Nate Yingling, who at the time of this recording was a marketing teacher at Western Guilford High School, but since then has landed a full-time position as a history teacher at High Point Central, another school in Guilford County. I hope this podcast has allowed you to gather a little more information on the current teaching landscape, how it's evolving, and other aspects of it, giving you a taste of what myself and other education majors will be getting ourselves into over the next couple of years. As for other education majors listening to this, I hope this can give you some great insight into what the future holds for us and maybe some tips to aid your academic careers. That's it for me. I hope you enjoyed and have a great night.